Get maximum output from the constraint with existing resources. Any thoughts on that? How do you read that?
Yeah, well, it's different for every scenario. You basically have to really, you have to identify. We've already identified the constraint, but you have to describe it. You have to understand the constraint. So it's not enough to just know that this group is causing the problem, but why are they causing the problem? What's the reason behind it? What's the
Yeah, when I was a systems engineer, which is also why I took these courses, because it was part of my systems engineering coursework. One of the things that one of my managers taught me was the 5 whys. Like, when you do find a constraint, you should ask yourself at least 5 levels of why. Why is this happening? And then why does that happen?
Yeah.
And I think Elon probably puts his best. And I hate that we turn this podcast into the Elon show. But Elon put their best with also known as first principles, right? Like, what are the laws? What are the governing laws that dictate what is actually can or can't happen? Because if you have anything that's not a first principle, then it's just some excuse or some arbitrary thing, the rule that somebody made up.
Yeah, we this is the way we've always done it. Is what I hear a lot. Like, why do we have to have this particular meeting before we can move forward? Oh, that's just the way we've always done it.
Right.
Okay, why have we always done it that way? And often there's no answer to that. And like, okay, so if we don't know why we've always done it, let's stop doing it and see what happens. Or you get a little bit more detailed than that, and try to flush out, okay, what would the repercussions of not having this meeting be?
Yeah, but you got to pull back a little bit more, right? It's not enough to just ask that first why. We have a meeting.
Yeah.
Well, why?
Yeah.
That's level 2.
Yeah, if the answer is we've always had the meeting, well, why have we always had the meeting?
Right. And oftentimes either it was because somebody had an idea and we just never challenged status quo, or my favorite is there was some sort of an ethic thing that we now try to prevent, right? We build processes around safeguards. We built safeguards to get ourselves not into legal problems or trouble.
Well, or there was a failure at one time, and so we put up guardrails to avoid that failure, not realizing the guardrails really create a bottleneck. And that one scenario that caused the failure, it was a 1 in a million chance.
But you gotta be you gotta be careful with these things, though, right? Because regulated industries typically are slow because of all these constraints that have been evolved into the process. But you also want to be very careful, right? Because like SpaceX is we're turning this into the Elon show again. But SpaceX is a great example.
You need to find another hero.
I know, right? I do. Well, have you read Elon's book, the one by Walter Isaacson? There's one that I actually read.
So is it really his book? Somebody else wrote it?
Well, yeah, because he spent then like a year and a half with them, writing it and documenting it as he was, living his life. But when he was doing SpaceX, SpaceX is space travel. NASA is a heavily regulated industry, right? And look at space launch systems,
or it was,
But then like Elon, when they came in with SpaceX, they're like, well, why is there this rule? And Elon's like the master of like why. Like, I don't know if you heard recently, but like, there was this thing where he couldn't get the permit to launch the rockets because there was like water that was contaminating, but then they needed the water to cool the rocket down. But then they were getting fined because the rocket was not being cooled down and it was contaminating. But then they needed the water, right? Like, there was like this infinite loop that Elon's like, make it make sense.
Yeah. No, I had not heard about that, but
there's a lot of
rules.
There's a lot of those examples, but one that I wanted to pull up is, again, with the cautionary, right? Because it's easy to identify the bottlenecks. I think it's easy, right? I think most people...
That's the easy part of the problem, is identifying it,
But should you or how you go about fixing the bottleneck, I think that's where it's an art, right? And so the reason I was going down the Elon rabbit hole was because when they were building the roof tiles, right? When they were doing the Solar City, what is this electric company? Whatever it was before it merged with Tesla, they were like they need 3 nails. And he's like, well, do it with 1 and see what happens. And all the shingles start flying off. It's like, okay, try 2.
Try 2. 2.5.
Yeah. But it's that concept of like, people just do it because you do it because it's the way it's been done. But like you like try. Sometimes you tip too much. And so it's like a middle ground that you got to figure out. Sometimes that's the art.
Well, sometimes once you identify a constraint, the short-term fix is creating another constraint upstream. Mm-hmm. So by the time the workflow gets to the existing constraint, it's not as much of a bottleneck, and the work flows right through.